That was a world trip. Look good with the dogs today.
Busy. Yeah. I think National Pet Day.
That's a good one.
I looked before I came out. We had 700 and something views on that.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. How do you beat dogs?
I had to
Kissing a
be.
baby, a dog?
I appreciate what you're doing.
You too?
And I tell you, I hear all good things over there.
Good. Hopefully.
And then Chris Williams.
Look forward to working with you.
Well,
You did great on the radio the other day.
I
I guess.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Two or three more weeks.
You know, I don't wish my life away for anything.
Test one,
Really, so we're-
test one, two.
Amen.
Hey, in the rearview mirror.
Absolutely.
You gonna give us a speech tonight, Dustin?
Oh, sir. I'm just testing the audio because we've got to make sure that where I've got this microphone here to pick up whoever's speaking better and that audio there, that it's not doubling or echoing real bad or anything like that. So,
That's just fine.
It's one thing to worry about.
That's part of his rotation. That's what I understand.
Oh, how are you? Good.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
You gotta know, where's your little pie?
Yeah, that's what I need, don't I? That's what I need.
5 rotation.
Oh, goodness.
We're doing 5 a year, we all agree.
And that's Keith Baker.
We were
And he's
asking
got
about the
mine.
ARP money,
Rest
because
of
we
that's
had put in 5 vehicles.
She's on the road.
But it doesn't make any difference.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
you're saying,
you know what I'm
I mean, I was
saying.
just telling you that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's money.
I know.
It don't matter whether it's grant money or taxpayer money. If we take it and give him $400,000 to buy tires or whatever he wants to in American Rescue, and then he comes in here and asks for this again, this ought not even be in there.
Well, then, Kelly's, yeah.
That's what we've got to tell them.
And I told Mitch, I told him, oh, you was there.
Redo it also.
Oh, We'll go ahead and call the meeting in order, I guess you can say that. Last week, Heather Rhymes from School Health, Health Council, came by, and she wanted to address y'all for just 5 minutes. Very quickly before we started, and we told her that she could do that, so.
Did bring some handouts, I'll hand this to you. If you wanna take one and pass them along, I don't know if that's the best thing. And I won't take long at all, I'll honestly just leave these with you guys and open the floor for questions if you have any. I know you all are very familiar with the Health Council, you've supported the Health Council for many years, and we appreciate that, but I saw in the paper that there was an opportunity for other nonprofits who had applied for funds to speak, and I thought that I would just come and make myself available to answer any questions you might have, or to update you on kind of what we do and why we exist and what we hope to continue doing. Yes, sir?
Ran out of copies, I'm sorry.
Oh, already?
What's your,
Two more,
thank you.
4, 5. Okay, well, sorry about that. Yes.
Okay, Chad, you furnish
I do appreciate you all having me. I didn't mean to put a kink in things today. I know that I wasn't.
Now, y'all took over the birthing center, is that right?
We actually used a couple office spaces out at the Wellness and Maternity Center next to the health department for a few years, but we outgrew that space. So we've been behind the post office. We share a spot with the USDA where Soil Conservation District is.
Okay.
So we're at 615 and they're 616, but we've been there for about 6 years now, and we do a lot. And I think sometimes you might hear about the Health Council and assume that we are, providing clinical services or directly partnered with the health department. And as a 501c3, we've kind of branched out, and those of you that have worked with the agency may be aware of that, but sometimes it's best to just provide a visual, and so I thought I would do so this year. I don't know how long it's been since you all have been updated, but again, that's really all I have, so I don't want to take too much time unless anyone has any questions. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your support, and we're just around the corner, so you know where we are now. Come visit us anytime. Thank you for allowing me to speak and share.
Next, we will look at the sheriff's department budget, then after it, the jail, then after that, the ambulance.
So before we continue, can I ask a question? Now, I heard 1 or 2 statements last week saying we're gonna wait till the end before we go change it. Should we put that to a vote if everybody's in agreement with that, or, I mean, I think we need to hear every budget, or we're gonna be here to midnight on last night.
Okay.
So,
Whatever you all want to do,
I mean,
we'll
just-
do whatever you want to do.
I think there's some we obviously can make a decision on, that if there's something we cannot agree on, move on from that point to hold it to the end. That way, we would not be here during all that time, but if there's something obviously we can halfway agree on and settle that, then move on.
Okay.
That's mine.
Okay, so after what you want to do, after they present their budget, then
Yes.
you just want to say whether
You know,
you're gonna fund it at
No,
that level, or
Right,
what changes you're gonna make.
exactly, yeah.
Is that agreeable with you?
Because obviously some budgets are bigger than others, a little easier to go through, and some of them aren't, so.
Well, there are ones that have different component parts too.
Right.
Like when we get into the 101, they're
Right.
pretty much the same thing over and over and over, year after year,
Right.
to move that through them quickly. The ones tonight may take a little bit more time because there's so many working parts in it.
Right.
They
right.
address so many different
That-
things. so.
Right, that's kind of my point, I guess. It's hard to make a good decision on the bigger budgets that, like I said, have different components to them.
Okay. Well, I'm going to
Libby,
turn
can
it
I
over.
have just 1 minute, real quick, and I think that that I told you about it, and I think we talked a little bit about it at the last workshop. I told you there was a filming company that was interested in filming in the old jail, and they have a proposal for that, which is about $7,000 over a 2-month period. The only issue is, and it's not an issue, I just want to get your feedback and blessing, is that they want to do their first filming April the 19th. That is prior to county commission meeting. They have sent their version of a contract from their attorney. Danny Dyer is currently looking at that because obviously he's worked with us on some jail issues before. They're negotiating indemnity and a couple of other things that Jerome always was really big in. But $7,000 for, I think it's about 5 days over a 2-month period. And the only thing we have to do is mop and wax the front lobby and do some things. And at least if nothing else, it'll pay the utilities for a year for both buildings. So does anybody oppose moving forward with that prior to county commission? Or I guess we could have a call, but they want to go ahead and do some prelim work because we've got to make sure the county is protected liability wise. That's the main thing, regardless of the money. And I think they're going to use some local cast. They're going to advertise to use some local citizens in cast and that kind of stuff. It's a Colorado murder case that they're using the jail for. So is it okay if I proceed with that, or do we need to wait?
I don't have an issue with it as long as the county's not
Right.
liable.
And as soon as Danny okays it, it's kind of in his lap now, making sure the first contract he didn't like.
Right.
So we sent it back to their attorneys, so the two attorneys got together, and I think they're on the same page now.
So are we using Danny more than Reed? or-
No, it was just for this particular one.
Interesting.
Okay. Sorry, Lee.
Okay. No, that's
Didn't mean
fine.
to hijack.
Oh, no, that's fine, that's fine, we need to do that. Well, who's presenting, are you or the sheriff? Chris is presenting the budget for the sheriff's department.
And real quickly, I'll go through the sex offender registry budget, no changes. Drug fund budget, no changes. They're exactly like they have been for as long as I can remember. On the sheriff's office budget itself, I did write in a 5% raise on the salary lines. If you look down here, line 189, where we're moving the court officers from the jail side back to the sheriff's side, since they are covered under TCA and they are certified officers. But that's just coming out of Albert's budget to mine. If you come on down to 338 vehicle, I increased that line. The postal charges, I had to increase that because we're mailing more stuff because of COVID. Line 356, the tuition, that's Dawn's training line and the price of ammo. And then the other, where am I at? 424, the garage supplies. My gasoline line, just because I don't know what I'm going to pay for fuel. The tires and tubes on 450. 453, again, vehicle parts.
What's the difference, Chris, between that and garage supplies? I mean, other than the obvious, what would that be?
There's not.
It's just two different lines?
Yeah. Yeah, I pulled one of my 6 month POs out of one and another 6 month PO out of the other one.
Okay.
Now, this is at 101 top, we're looking at a state mandated increase,
That's the sheriff's salary.
Yeah.
so that, yeah.
Yeah, we ain't got no choice on that one.
And then the 5% is not, or it is state mandated?
No.
It's not.
And the only other one on the back, 718, and that's for the vehicles, for the 5 vehicles, just because price went up.
But did we not give y'all the money on the vehicles in American Recovery Plan?
Yes, I got money out of that, or I'm getting, I don't have, but,
So that should come out of this 280,000.
well, not if you give me the 5 cars every year that you promised in the budget last year.
But that's giving you 10 cars this year, is it not?
Then that would give me a 15 total, and I could bust my garage lines back down. That way I'd have 15 cars under warranty.
What kind of vehicle did you order?
Ford
The
Explorers.
American Recovery.
I hadn't ordered any yet, because I don't have the money in hand, but it'll probably be the Ford Explorers. It'll be the same as last year. We ordered those last June, and I got them last week. So I'll still have to repair what I got for a year till we can get them if I ordered them today.
Well, I thought it was understanding last year we put this on rotation, 5 each year,
Mm-hmm.
before it wouldn't just absolutely kill the budget. And we give you down American Recovery and paid for those 5. And it was my understanding that that was gonna come off this. And here it shows up in here that we got 5 more.
Well, it's my understanding that American Recovery money, it came along and it was a bonus.
But I understand it's a bonus, but should the taxpayers have to pay for these cars, the American Recovery already paid for them?
Well, I was paying for 5 different ones.
I
but
know,
yeah.
so instead of the 5
But I left it,
rotation that we got set up on and everybody agreed on last year, now you're coming in here and said you're gonna get 10 this year. Now, you know, the taxpayers cannot stand anymore of spending.
they're not paying for 5 of them.
Who's paying for it?
That American Relief Fund. It's
Okay.
not coming out of the Monroe County
Where does
taxpayers.
American Relief Fund come from?
I don't know
It comes
that.
from you and I as taxpayers, only from the federal level. And this is from the county. So that money was to help us, and it did help us. But it's not gonna help us any if we keep the extra 5 vehicles in this year's budget. Because we agreed on a rotation, and I think everybody in here agrees that that's what we agreed on last year. And rotate them out instead of spending.
But it would help as far as having that many more vehicles under warranty and not spending the money to fix the ones like we are now. I mean, cause that's where my lines went up at, is that garage over there, keeping the cars we got now on the road. And then these last 5 that you gave us last year, we bought into is $1,890 more to bump it up to a 5-year warranty instead of a 3.
Well, I've asked finance to tell me where the money went to when the catalytic converter was sold. That money has never been turned into finance, but Mr. Green from Lower City says that he came and picked up a carload of catalytic converters at the sheriff's department garage. And the sheriff's department hauled them up to the purchase. Where's all that money at?
And as soon as we found out that something went awry, we contacted Steve Crump. You can contact his office and his investigators.
Well, do you not agree that money should be coming from somebody that's responsible in the sheriff's office?
I don't know where it came from. I don't know if they were sold. I mean, we turned everything over and we backed out of it.
My biggest concern on the cars, I mean, I see what Luke's saying, you know, we did give you 5 ARP, but big, you know, here, we've done 5 last year and then 5 more this year, it's went up $56,000. So the longer we wait, the more it's gonna cost us. I don't know.
And I hope that's all they went up. Jackie Jones cannot give me a price
Right,
today
yeah.
on a new vehicle.
Yeah, so I mean, that's on my concern about waiting to.
Have you checked to see what the state bid was on the sedans? It was $27,000.
I don't know that. I don't know. I know for some things, we're still waiting for like the tires and cubes. Yeah, we're still waiting on the state bid to be set for 22, 23.
But do you not think that the taxpayers' money would be wisely spent if we bought sedans at $27,000 or $28,000 versus $47,000 bid?
I think for the driveway and the terrain that these guys go on, I think we'll tear the bottom out of the sedans just like we do these Chargers. I think the ground clearance on the Explorers will suit the needs much better,
Mr.
with
White,
less repair.
are we talking, I'm asking this Mr. Bright too, you first. When he refers to sedans, is he referring to a Crown Vic?
They don't make them.
Okay, now my question after that is, we're going back to a Dodge, right?
I hope not.
I mean, when he refers to a sedan, is
Yeah.
that right, sir?
That's what the
Okay.
Dodgers are.
Okay.
Chris,
That's the unibody,
Mhm.
that is basically spot welded in the frame up under it, okay?
Well,
I'm just curious.
okay, and what do you think the?
I don't think taxpayers wanna pay it, but I'll tell you this much, I've tore down spot welds before.
But does the Ford not have a unibody?
That research I haven't done because at the time when we were voting on this, I saw what we were looking at, and it was, I will admit, Mr. Bright, it was a more expensive, vehicle. It was in the Explorer model, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Okay, and when we go back to it and we look at it, you know, I did go out and see, what was going on at the garage and did see some repair work going on, but I'm not saying that, you know, you don't need to look into all avenues, but if we're gonna rotate them, you know, it's gonna be an expense to do that. If you don't get roads fixed, you're not gonna have sedans that are gonna make it anyway.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna put it off on the roads. I mean, Steve does a good job on the roads, but when you get off the road, when you go to the driveways, when you go to the top of the mountain, it's the terrain that we travel on outside of the roadway.
I've had constituents message me and say, let's go ride a road. And my whole reply was, it's not that I don't trust you, I've been down some of those roads and I drive something else, I don't drive a sedan. So, but then again, I have driven in other counties in a sedan or a small SUV, which doesn't sit much higher than a sedan. So, yeah, I can see that there's gonna be roughed up vehicles if we have sedans. I agree with that. So,
Hey, Chris, do you remember last year when you priced the Chargers and Explorers, they wasn't, but just man.
I don't think it was much different.
was-
I think everything was
The
within like,
Tahoes were a lot more.
Yeah.
I think that's why we got away from those. But
And the Explorer was a lot more.
not, I don't think it's a lot. It wasn't a lot.
This lady got me the state bid on the Dodge sedans, all-wheel drive, and they were $27,000 or something.
and
The Explorers was 44 or something, and the Tahoes was 50 something. I mean, that's the facts right there.
well, also the Tahoes though, on the other hand, had about a 20 miles per gallon fuel economy, where these Explorers have got I think that thing says 14.6 now.
But what would the Dodge sedans have? And see, here's the problem. You know, you could buy 7 Dodge sedans versus 5 Ford Explorers. So if you need more cars, would it not be more economical to take the 7 Dodge sedans? I mean, I'm just asking the
Right.
question.
And I could look it up, I didn't, and I should have, at our work orders, and I can tell you what it costs to replace some of those all-wheel drives.
Well, as you can see in other departments, if you see Tennessee State Troopers, they're in Explorer. as you can see, I think Nashville City went to Explorer, Sweetwater went to Explorer. Nobody wants to buy the Dodge because they ain't worth the value you're putting in them. They
Now,
tear
all these
up,
other-
they, all
all
this
these
stuff.
other counties that's not so far in debt like we are, you see Dodge sedans.
And one thing that benefits us is having a Ford dealer here in the county, so if anything does happen to these cars,
Yeah,
it
we
takes
can
priority.
take them in county and use county businesses to get them serviced versus taking them to Blount County and paying somebody to drive them up there.
I mean, just off the cuff here and a different subject, chasing a squirrel. You know, if you go out and want to downsize a house right now and sell what you're living in now and go build something even smaller or 2/3 the size, can you guarantee that you're gonna be getting what you've got in it by the time it's done? So, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but in the same aspect, that's why they can't price your vehicle.
Mhm.
There's $7,000.
You know what you're
between
gonna get. That's what we manufacture.
Charger and Explorer. Is the warranty, the last I had from this time last year, the Dodge products had a 3-year warranty and the Explorer and Tahoe had a 5-year warranty. Is that still correct?
Yes, we
That was
got a
the biggest
5-year
difference.
warranty
That
on
was
these.
the warranty. I knew it was something. Charger outfitted completely is $37,158. Now, this is last year's money. And the Explorer is $44,619. So basically, we're paying.
But that's not outfitted.
That's outfitted,
Yeah.
that's outfitted, that's after the price of outfitting.
I think we
So
paid,
what was the total price of the vehicle,
Of which one?
of the Ford Explorer?
The Explorer, $44,619.
Before outfitting.
That is outfitted. Before the base price before outfitting is $33,119.
and then I came up with some extra money because me and the sheriff added a couple of options to these cars. And I pulled it out of a separate line.
So I guess we need to look at, do you want 2 more years of warranty for $7,000? $7,000.
Which could be one thing.
Mr. Bright, you are pretty well right here. What I've Googled out of here says that, you know, Explorers are being built on a unibody. I just prefer something that wasn't myself.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you've ever worked in manufacturing and popped a spot weld with air chisel, you know what you're looking at. And I'm not saying it's that easy to pop it, I'm just.
I mean, if they'd bring them back, I'd be the first one to say, hey, buy me Crown Vics. But that's not an
So
option.
nothing's built to last, it's made to turn over.
Well, we're all here to try to save taxpayers dollars, and we keep the tax increasing. And yet, if it was in my household, and it was a Cadillac versus a Nissan Altima, and the difference in those prices is about the same, I'd have to go with the Nissan Altima.
Oh, too, I hated my wife's Cadillac.
I'd go with American, sorry.
But the question at issue is really, are we going to give them 10 vehicles when everybody agreed last year to give them 5 each year and have it on an automatic rotation? Then every 4 years, those vehicles are out, traded out.
So even if we take that off the budget, we're gonna have to pick it up next year again. I mean, they're gonna be more expensive again next year.
No, we'll pay for 5 more next year.
Right, but you're saying that we're at 5 on the budget. That's what you got on the budget, 5.
Yeah.
And then we're getting 5
Roughly.
more from ARP money, right?
Yeah, so that's.
So you wanna take that money out this year and use the ARP money, but next year we gotta put it back, so. you know,
Right.
If me and you's back here next year, you say we're gonna put that back or we're gonna
Rotation.
fight.
That's what you call a rotation.
Well, we had a rotation set up on 5 years one time on the lease, and
Yeah.
it got took away from
And
us.
what did the lease cost?
The same as buying 5 vehicles?
$1 million and something dollars.
I don't think so.
And see, that's what puts you in trouble when everything comes due at once, then it's a huge expense. where if you rotate every year, any way you look at it, you're gonna save the taxpayers money. And it's gonna help the sheriff's department. You know, I'm number one when it comes, I agree, the sheriff's department needs good vehicles and, to operate with. But I don't agree when we buy the high dollar stuff, what we can buy on the state bid, and get the same thing.
And work on it twice as much.
Well, it's under warranty.
For less amount of time.
Yeah, and then we're rotating them out, so there's not gonna be much
So
time.
basically, 5 years warranty. I mean, how long you usually keep a car before it's wore out? What's your age of your, some of your patrol bill?
Probably some of these were bought in
17, 19, wasn't it?
16, 17.
Back to 16, yeah.
So basically, they're 5, 6 years old, so I mean, you ain't gonna have to keep up with maintenance, but 1 year maybe,
Yeah.
it's all under warranty. But that's, I don't know. That's you're kinda rolling the dice on whether it's better to get the more warranty or pay maintenance cost.
I mean, use it one use, you just know what you need, and that's what I look at.
If,
And
if we set it up on 5-year rotation, we should get 5 cars a year.
And that's what everybody agreed
And-
last year.
Wait a minute. Then if we give them, they got 5 this year. 5 every year. And that way, at the end of the term, you got new cars every year. That's easy to figure out.
Well, I just went on those 5 cars that we were gonna buy every year. I put it back in the budget, and then that American Relief money came along that I've not counted on because I don't have it.
That money that's come along, that's still money,
Yeah,
and you need to use it like it's.
because no matter what we do, if we order 5 or if we order 10, I guess that's kind of the question for you. We're still over a year out before we even get them. If I ordered them today,
Well, if you order 10 today or if you order 5.
yeah,
you're
it's gonna be the
still-
same difference, yeah, it's gonna be the same.
But inflation every day is killing us, so.
Guys, let me say
June, July,
one
August,
thing
September,
here.
December, January, February, March. So it took me 10 months to get these.
Last year, when we ordered these cars that you guys approved, we parked one out front so you guys could see it. Like the chief just said, it's been 10 months. According to Scott Sledge at Ford, there's been a 12% increase in the price. So we'll pay 12% more this year than we did for the cars last year. Over 2 years, there's a 24% increase because that's what they're figuring is gonna happen each year because of inflation. So if we order 5 this year, you got 12%. If we order 10, you got 12%. If we hold off and stay on the 5-year rotation, the way I look at this is this ARP money that's came in has been a blessing to this county, number one. It gets us a year ahead. So if we do, we're not asking for more cars in the end. That gives you a year at the end, because that'd be 4 years that it would take to get those 20 cars. We could do it in 3 years with the same amount of tax dollars that we were approved for, talked about last year. Well, when you save, might as well say 24% off of the cost of per vehicle, you're kind of saving tax dollars if you're getting a year ahead. Because in 3 years, I mean, you'll be over 24% per car on the increase.
Coming back and having to order more.
Yeah. And like we've seen, I mean, you know, we're looking at a 10 to 12 month time frame. Once these cars are approved and the order goes in, you guys approve the budget, it goes in July 1, we'll put the order in, and we're 9, 10 months out from getting them. You know, there's, and Chad, remember too, on these cars, I mean, if we roll 5 down, we're gonna roll them back down to SROs, detectives, whoever, because they get the old used vehicles.
you know, some of these Tahoes and some of these Chargers that these guys are driving have 250,000 miles on them, and they're well out of warranty. But now they don't drive every single day like a patrolman does. They're not putting 20,000 miles a year on the car. They're driving to and from the school, to and from the office, wherever. So, and it's your discretion. It's over what you decide to do as a board or a commission. But, you know, at the end of the day, if we can get 10 this year, 5 of them is going to be local tax dollars. The other 5 is going to be this COVID relief money. And that kind of gets you guys, it gets the county a year ahead. So we're doing this in 3 years instead of 4 years. And that 4th year, then I guess you guys don't have to worry about funding anything because we're a year ahead. And then we'll fall back into that on the 5th year, buying 5 more.
Do you have to pay for them in advance, or do you pay for them when they're delivered?
How are they feeling that, Libby?
They have to be on the ground here.
Yeah,
Before you pay for it,
Yes.
so it's not in advance?
Yes.
I'm not paid for the 5 I've got now.
I started to say the ARP money, have we got that yet? Can they order new cars now? Because we've approved 5.
But it's on the second round
The
though.
second round.
Okay.
So we don't have that
And
money.
we don't have the second round.
It should be here in about 9, 6 weeks.
So in all reality, you're getting 11 new cars. Because you got a new car for mental health transport.
Yeah, that was a grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in all reality, instead of getting 10 new cars, you could get 11.
Now that one you're talking about, that 11th, has to go to the jail. It has to be used for mental health transport, or we violate the conditions of the grant. And it's not striped, it's not marked. It has to be a softer vehicle because it's dealing with mental health patients and not actual criminals.
How many years that got to stay as a mental health? I mean, till
I
you
don't-
buy another one?
I don't know, Chad. I can't say. I don't know the time frame on that.
I think it's about 5 years too.
Yeah.
But I've seen that contract, Grant, I think it's
I think it's
locked
5.
in for a while.
Yeah.
I was thinking 4.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5 years. It's not something that we can just use 1 year and then put it on the road.
Yeah. They're pretty lenient on that grant. I mean, it don't have a lot of restrictions, but it does have a few.
And to our own horn, as we mentioned grants, we've got an excellent guy that has written grants for us this year. And I think we've got, over $300,000 in non-matching grants this year.
But like I say, even the non-matching grants comes out of the taxpayer's pocket,
They are.
one way or the other. I mean, do you not agree, Tom?
I agree 100%. That's federal tax dollars.
And that comes out of our pocket.
But
If it's county,
if you-
state.
if we don't take it, somebody else will.
It's all
That's it.
taker. Well, see, that's the attitude that everybody's got. If we don't get it, somebody else will. And that's where we're in this country as a whole. That's what the position we're in with 30-something trillion dollars in debt.
Now you gonna turn it back in.
But I know that you didn't cause COVID.
As long as you know that.
But you cost the taxpayer a lot of money when you can cover all that stuff.
We've had
And you have
over.
to agree with me on the vehicles. That's not fair to the taxpayer.
What we try to do is balance. You got a $7,000 difference. You got a 3-year 36,000 mile warranty or a 5-year 100,000 mile warranty. These deputies run 15,000 to 20,000 miles a year. We run out of warranty really, really fast. When we do that, this, as you see, and you see our increases in our budget, and a lot of it's to do with the person we have in DC, but a lot of it has to do with we have vehicles out of warranty now. And we have to keep these cars running. It costs us a lot of money, and that's tax dollars too, to keep these cars responding to calls.
How many cars we got on the road now?
On patrol, we got 20 cars.
I mean, total fleet.
We've got our detectives division, our SROs, our patrol, I can't give you the exact number, Roger, I'd lie to you, but I'm gonna say 50 or more. That's on total. Do you remember, Chris? So, but you know, each one of these are the people that work every single day that's going to a school or to the office somewhere. Any other questions?
Off the top of my head, I came up with 45, Roger.
45.
Who is the supervising director?
Which line you talking about?
105.
That's Chris.
That's the narcotics.
That's two budgets, right?
Chris, you mentioned your field line, and I'm just curious as far as this year's budget, are you like every other department in the county, I mean, with this $4, $5 gas, I mean, we've still got till June 30th to go, it's gonna
It'll
be
be
tight,
tight.
isn't it?
It will be.
I mean, every department in the county's got vehicles that's struggling to fuel budget right now.
And I've not increased that line since I've been doing this. You know, it stayed the same. That's the one line that there was some cushion in.
Right.
But it's not there now.
I think every department in the county is struggling with that right now.
And also, every taxpayer in the county is struggling too. If you don't believe it, go get you some diesel for your car. It would cost you $40 an hour to move a tractor. They're having problems too.
Well, there's nothing that we can do about fuel costs, that's gotta be paid regardless of whether we budget $100 or $10,000, that has to be paid. You know, that's not an issue with me. The issue with me is the way the tax dollars are spent, and if they're spent wisely, and that, you know, no more, no less, that's it.
So about moving these officers, does that take your jail down?
Do what?
Moving jail officers over to the sheriff's budget,
Yes.
does that decrease the jail budget?
Mhm.
Does it decrease the amount from the jail?
Well, just take it out of his budget and puts it in mine.
Does it decrease his budget?
Yes.
Is that what he's asking for?
Yeah, I think it was.
Well, look like if you look at jail, but we'll get ahead, but everything increased on it too, just out of inflation, I'm sure.
I think jail has been really hit hard by, looks like the drugs and that. So do we approve this now, or we just pocket it till later, if that's all the question?
You all want to do, I think that's where we left it.
Let's go to jail. Chief,
Good evening, everybody. Where would we like to start? Mine is kind of, it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. I figured it would kind of be a little bit more, but it's fairly decent. We started out with the 5% on all my administrative lines and whatnot. But then you get down, once you pass that, is everybody looking, I guess, at that sheet, my increases or decreases? I mean, 'cause you can look at the little one or this one, it makes it easier to read. And you see the 5% written in there for all the employees. Then you get down to my sentencing officer, and I increased that one by 38.85.34. And that's to bring it online with my classification officer. They basically work out of the same office doing the same amount of work, so it's only fair that I even that out for him. So I did put that in for that one employee.
What's a year's experience between those two?
I didn't.
Years of experience between those two that work the same office, same?
They're almost the same. One worked in Rutherford County for a while. He didn't always work for Monroe County, which my classification officer worked here longer for Monroe County, and in Blunt. So they both kind of been bounced around back and forth, but have been in law enforcement almost the same amount of time.
What line are we talking about? I didn't catch.
That is the 162 classification line.
Okay.
I think it is. Wait, let me make sure I got that right. I'm sorry, 162, my sentencing officer line.
He's going down there.
And how many, staff are you still short?
I'm actually almost filled them up here as of recent.
Are you able to?
I'm close. I think I'm only, now that remains to be seen because I just filled the positions here probably about 3-4 weeks ago maybe. We're gonna see. We'll see what happens. I know some of them I've heard have applied in Blunt and Loudon because of the pay
And I hear
change.
that a lot, that Monroe County is kind of training for
It is.
other counties to go and work. And because they get paid more, train
Right.
here to go get paid there.
Yeah, it's easier, because we need employees, so we have to hire them. We get them full-time, then we train them, and then
And
they can go
are
to.
we able to do like we did the ambulance last year, kind of give them some kind of incentives to stay here longer, automatic step raises, or is that something we could do for jail employees, or does that only work for ambulance? I'm asking finance over.
Oh, I don't, yeah.
Everybody agrees to and passes, you can use it on the state scale if you want.
Right, I mean, I'm just looking for something where he's not constantly training for other counties, he's still in wait.
We did adjust that last year, didn't we? Didn't
Yeah.
we? Starting phase
Well,
stuff?
we did increase it last year.
12.90 something.
12.88.
So
Yeah.
88.
And what hurts me, guys, and I didn't put it in here this year, but I did ask, I think it was last year, the budget, is my 3 pay lines, the 3 different pay rates for the same job.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody recalls me mentioning that last time I was up here. We've got the 12, I should have wrote it down, but my 12 something, my 14 something, then my $16 pay lines. That's hard to, after everybody's been here about 3 or 4 years, they should be making around the same amount of money, which, and before I forget, TCI, when I went to the conference this year, they're fixing to do the training incentive like the road officers get for corrections, which is a good thing, but it's gonna come from the state. The state's actually gonna pay, when they do their training, pay for it. So that's coming down the pike. They're working on passing that. At least that's what I've heard from the director of TCI. So it's pretty much, it's there, it's gonna happen. And that'll help keep people, a little bonus here and there. Doesn't hurt. You come in for training other than getting paid, you get that $600 or whatever. That's handy around Christmas time, especially people live here. Everybody knows you gotta have a little extra money.
What is the least paid person in the jail?
1288. Or no, we moved it to 14.
The discretion of the chief jailer last year to raise it up to like 15, 18 an hour.
Yeah.
When they did these discretion.
On certain pay lines, correct? And they're all different. So I think our lease employee, they start out at the 1288 and then they're 14 something. I mean, I'll just be honest, we've got to give them a little bit more. It's
Well,
hard
I
to keep them.
thought that what everybody agreed to last year was the $16. I mean,
Not to even the lines, we didn't agree to that.
I don't know what you're talking about, the lines, I'm talking about the employees.
That's the base they start out at, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, was that not what we discussed? Because
I think we moved some
if I
positions.
remember correctly, I made the statement that it was ridiculous.
Yeah, because you were sitting right where the mayor is right then when you made that statement. And it is.
And then I thought we all agreed to the
$15 or $16 an hour.
I think you went out of town the next time, didn't you, Liz? Because I think you and I talked about that, and then it got rescinded or whatever when you weren't here.
And see, that's what seems to happen. You know, everything gets switched around, and those poor old jailers, they didn't benefit from it.
So, right now, if you start out tomorrow, it's what, as a jailer? If I were to come in right off the street, cause I'm like you, I thought we did
It's
that
up to
too.
15.88 an hour, I
I'd be
think.
looking the other way.
Yeah, that's what I was
And
thinking.
a lot of them were raised up to 15.
Yeah, cause I think we tried to balance it out and go ahead and bump them up some.
We
Yeah,
looked
because
at
I
that
got jumped
statement.
on for saying we need to raise the jailers up.
Spending that money. They deserve it.
They work hard. My guys really do work hard, and they don't get
Um,
much for it, you know.
What revenue does the jail produce each year
And all over the place.
for fines?
Had so many that
Oh.
would come up to that already.
Huh?
They get so much for prison, they're
You have to run about $1 million a year.
Yeah, we're right at a million on my board bill.
You got your board bill.
When that statement was made, then we came back and said, then you've got all these other people who make less than that, you can
Yep.
put them on.
Where do you have that?
That's what I have.
I didn't know we did that.
I got one.
Oh, okay, I have to make sure. I mean, we do okay, I mean, in our money, you know, we bring in some money.
And the telephones, they're bringing in money and everything?
Yes, sir.
Commissaries,
The phones are averaging anywhere from 14 to 15,000,
a month?
yes, a month. Commissary income's not that great, and the reason it's not, we actually could do better, but the state has their hands on that, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's gonna have to get fixed in Nashville. They pretty much get us. If you look at our commissary income, I don't know if y'all have that, anywhere, it averages anywhere from 3 to 5, depending on the month. We could make, I know counties that make double, almost triple that.
What was the commissary when y'all were going to that house?
I'm sorry?
What was the commissary?
That I don't know, because every time I've been in the state, and
Done
something,
in the house.
it was, yeah, I don't know.
Looking at it, you do a count of the
Now,
the way the law reads, why the blind have first choice on it, if they want to provide the commissary, they have first choice on it.
now this is a blue point, continued debate. The unfinished part, is it heat, cool, electric going on in there?
It does have lights.
Does have lights?
Yeah, and I think we may have heat in there. We have heat in there if we want to use, I mean, we try not to run
Or
it.
is it just locked up?
Right now, there's just storage in there with a gravel floor.
Yeah.
To answer your pay question, they start out at 14.30 hours, the next step is 14.70, and the top out is 16.89. You cannot top out and move up a step unless someone in that line, we refer to lines all the time, because that's how we got to look at these budgets. Because you've got, say, 10 employees in line 14.30, 8 or 9 in 14.70, and the remainder is 16.80. 16.80 is the ones that's been here the longest period of time. So if Albert's in the 14.70 line, I'm in the 14.30 line, we've both been here, he's been here 3 years and 2 months, and I've been here 3 years exactly. I can't step up to the next pay level until he quits. When he quits, then I can be moved up into his line, and then someone behind me would come up to that. We can't make the discretion ourselves based off of
But so,
work or.
so the jailers are not making $12.88.
No.
Not anymore.
No, you have
After
to
that,
fix
last
that
time they are
year.
not. They start out at 14.30,
Yeah,
unless you come in just part-time.
and
Then it's a 12.
Yeah. So, you know, our discretion as far as being able to say, hey, Albert's doing a good job, he's at 14.30, so let's bump him up so we can keep him. We can't do that unless there's a line open to move him into. If he applies and he's got 15 years' experience and we're trying to steal him from McMinn or Loudon or Blount County, we can't offer what they're paying, we can't offer more than they're paying. We're just, I mean, we're kind of confined. And I don't know if that's something you guys want to address this year or you want to do it next year or whenever, but it does need to be looked at, balancing those lines out. But it is a lot better than the 12.88 and what we've been in.
So Gail or Libby, what he's saying is basically, I don't know how many jailers he had, but he's got so many spots, he can pay $16 an hour at 10, so many spots at this amount, is that right, or is it all one?
No, they're all grouped together separately.
Is that the way it has to be, or?
No, you can do whatever you want.
Last time, Albert, if I'm not mistaken, you raised several up to 1588 that were down to like 12 something an hour after this.
Yes, yeah, I gave them the raise, try to keep everybody in.
What we addressed last time was whenever all of this happened, we said $16 an hour. We said you have all these other workers that don't make $16 an hour. So how are you going to differentiate between how valuable your employees are?
And when you say other
Because in
employees,
effect, you're raising minimum wage to $16 an hour.
when you're saying other employees, you're saying other departments,
Other
employees,
departments,
okay?
yes, that are much lower than that.
Yeah,
And not
I
to take
agree.
anything away from the jailers or the road officers or anything like that, but you have to consider,
It all needs to be addressed.
you have to look at all of them.
Oh.
Because, you know, you have other people who do jobs in Monroe County that their jobs are just as important as the jailers and the road officers. And so I don't know how you do that unless you say that there's a minimum wage in Monroe County. And that was what we got into last time whenever we said, it's a, you know, when Commissioner Bright made the statement on it, you know, that they should make more than that. And, but we have all these others that 1588, from 28, $30,000 a year. And there are many employees in Monroe County that make less than $33,000 a year. Responsibilities with that.
I'm gonna say mine are the most important. They work for me.
You know, everybody wants
That's
their
mine.
partner. We all do.
Build your family,
Their
their family.
families.
I do. Their families are important too.
And I understand exactly what Libby's saying, where she's coming from. And it's, you know, it's not the sheriff, it's not any other department. But it's the responsibility of the county government to bring this stuff in line. I mean, there should be some kind of policy that certain jobs get certain pay. If it's in the sheriff's department, if it's in finance, or if it's in solid waste, that person should make the same in all those departments.
But
I mean, in all fairness.
I looked into a pay scale study, but of course it costs money. But from what I get, just what a little bit I get, 30, 40,000, something like that. And that would be the only way we could get it equal.
We've had that done.
Yeah.
We've had that done.
We've had that done.
When they first started.
Surely, we got 10 commissioners, and between the 10 of us should have sense enough to be able to do the study ourselves. I mean, why would you want to bring somebody outside and do the study?
But we, Commissioner Wright, we had that done several years ago, and to bring it up, and everybody was classified. They talked to the supervisors, the person that did it, talked to them, and everybody was classified. It was gonna cost about $300,000 to bring everybody up to what they should be making, and the commission voted not to do it.
Before, as previous, this commission group
Yes.
put that.
You know, it's been several years ago.
Just to make sure.
Well, I don't think we can do it this year because of the budget crunch, everything's gone out of sight. But that, in the future, whoever's on the commission needs to look and get this equal, because there's departments that there's $4,000 or $5,000 difference. A person doing the exact job in this department, or they're in this one, but they're making $4,000 difference in pay.
You are correct.
Yep, I agree.
You are correct. That's something-
Oh, I know,
You are correct.
I've done my homework on it, and it's, you know, it's there, and so.
Are all the county jobs basically salary? When you look at a set, it's not actually, it's hourly, but it's a set salary. Does that make sense?
We have some hourly people, but
As well.
basically, it is.
It's like a guaranteed X amount of dollars anyway, right?
So,
It doesn't matter.
As long as they work
40
3 hours a
Right.
week, yeah, it's
That's
basically, yeah.
Okay, so that's where the big discrepancy is as well, not necessarily that.
We have some hours.
so basically the increase in your budget is coming from medical supplies.
The biggest part, yes.
Yeah.
And we can keep moving on down. I am moving some money from my part-time to my overtime. That's the same money. When we did not have the employees, a lot of guys were working overtime. All this COVID stuff hit, everybody was working over, the ones that weren't sick. So I'm just moving money from my part-time line to my overtime line to cover that. You know, and that number's there.
Okay, and how much
Yes,
is
sir.
the money that you're moving to the sheriff's side?
That's the next one down, the 155, 44682, yes, sir.
Okay, and is that taken off the overall budget?
It will be, at the end, it'll be taken off my top number, or bottom number, I guess, bottom line.
But on the sheriff's budget, it says 163,801. That same, when you moved it out of yours and moved into the,
Well, you add a 5% rate?
oh, that's the 5%
Yeah.
added.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we're taking it out, I can't take the 5% out.
He's
Well,
taking out
and
taxes instead
the
of
medical
what
and
he's
stuff,
done.
make a difference.
Yeah, now my food, which the next line is my food, the 312 line. It went up, and we had discussed that in the purchasing committee meeting, the 3.5%. I don't remember what meeting it was or the date, but we'd already discussed that increase, which we're still averaging, hang on, I can tell you. My meals are, right here, what I pay a meal, which is still pretty good. It's at $1.01. We're really almost $1.02. $1.019 per meal.
So it's $3 per person.
$3.06 a day. You can't eat anywhere for $3.06 one meal. But that's what the inmates are getting fed per day.
But if we used our kitchen that we spent this $34 million on, we're letting them use that facility
Hmm?
to feed his meals, right?
Yes. And
So
if we brought in our own, we'd have to pay salaries on that. I'd need 2 more
used to,
employees.
we had 2 people that run the
Kitchen,
kitchen and paid them a salary.
yes.
And so what's the difference in that and the way it's done now?
Now I just pay them
It was
the-
costing us $3 or
the
something.
$3 a meal, where I was around.
Well, such a large company, they get so much bulk because they service so many jails. So they're feeding, the more they feed, the cheaper it gets.
Who's cooking the meals?
Inmates. Inmates are helping the person in there that's supervising them. And then plus, at this facility, I would have to hire another employee if we did it to supervise the inmates as well. I'd almost need 3.
I think we don't want to, I think when we contracted to Phil, we saved about $70,000 a year on our budget. By limiting the salaries and lower the food costs. And that was what, 3 or 4 years ago?
I just remember it was about $3.89 a meal, and it went down to a bit over $1 a meal.
Yeah.
And same thing happened with laundry, everything.
Yeah,
I know we
everything's,
used to make a lot of money off the commissary.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't do anything about it. I mean,
once the state
once the
has it,
DCA,
you can't get it.
That has to be dealt with nationally because they have first right of refusal over the commissary. They can step in and say, we're taking it, we can't fight it. And I agree with you, Luke, I'd love to have it in-house, because we lost quite a bit of money when they took it out.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But there's nothing we can do.
Well, how does Nashville be able to dictate to us to say who can do this and do that?
Not laws.
Well, where's the law?
In the Tennessee Code, I tell you.
our representatives vote on it,
Yeah.
on the laws.
and it's actually TCH, so they try to understand the balance when we went to the phone system here and say that they were entitled to the revenue, 50-60% of the revenue off the phone system.
How does other counties do it then?
They were all standard one.
Not all of them.
But a lot of them are.
I know it, I understand that a lot of them are, so if it's a law, then everybody should have to do it.
So, go back to your thing, I got an 18-19 budget here, and you pay just for food supplies, you pay $340,000 in 18-19, that was in the old.
Okay.
So that's basically about what our budget, a little bit more now, but then you had 2 salaries on top of
Right, and then you add 2 salaries
that, and all the benefits.
and then what comes with it. So we are saving money on that, even though it is
I
increasing.
mean, that was 4-year-ago food.
Yes, it would still, it would be rising, it'd be going up with inflation, whatnot.
Probably just a little bit.
We had lots of issues, personnel issues with that also. We had lots of personnel issues.
No, okay.
So it actually worked out for the best, and everybody's best interest in that. Our laundry, I think we were increasing it 53.88, is that what it shows? Yep.
312.
Yeah, on the 312 laundry line, that's the same company, they help supervise that, but that employee that's in there, so I don't have to monitor that as well. And the 413 line, which is the medical line, that is my biggest increase. Guys, inmates, everybody knows the drug issues we've got. They're coming in with all kinds of health problems, and there's not much I can do about it, but take them to the hospital when it happens. We do have medical here. They do the best they can. What some things are above an RN. You know, they have to go to the emergency room. You know, they're coming in off Rex. We cannot refuse inmates. I wish we could. You know, when they come in and they've had a bad car accident, they've been brought to jail. You know, they refuse treatment out on the street. When they get here, and then all of a sudden everything hurts from the top to the bottom, and we got to send them. They know the game. Okay, you come here, we got to fix them. We have no choice. I wish there was a way around it. You know, I have worked with Judge Thomas. He's helped a lot. You know, some inmates, he's like, hey, if that's just a simple charge, he'll get them out of here. You know, and send them, tell them to go get medical treatment, report at this court date. And he's helped a lot on that. I mean, it's, you know, kudos to him. If not, it would even be more. So, and we work good in that aspect of making that happen. But to get it to where it needs to be, that's like a minimum that I'm gonna need that. I can't promise next year won't be more. You know.
Was that the same line items we had to increase in the middle of the year this year? Or was that something else?
It costs basically, we're on a cost plus on that, and we pay about, I don't know, 46,000 a month. And then at the end of every quarter, they send us an accounting of what it's actually cost on that, and we pay the difference in it. It's running us like 12,000 more each quarter on that. So it's gonna run over probably because of these additional costs. But there's nothing you can do about it because you're required to provide that medical care plan. And we didn't increase it, we said we might have to.
I think we talked about it, maybe.
We did not at that point in time. We had to choose an option. And the one we chose, we said we might make it and we might not. And Albert might have money in his budget from other line items to increase it.
Yeah, to try to help balance that out. Whatever's left, I mean, we're gonna have to push it that way.
It's the same thing with the dental. Dental is considered, healthcare just the same as any other health issue is. And of course, we're known for being a meth county around here, and everybody has that too. So,
And the reality, there's some guys in the dental, that they need like 10 teeth pulled.
So that's what we're limited to, it says limited to one teeth only.
You know, I don't.
That's what it says. I'm sorry, that's basically, that's the only dental service that can get.
Yeah, and a lot of them, it's because there's not much there. I mean, there's not much that's pulled, you know.
And they're actually giving more than what's being billed to the county anyway.
And then when we pull teeth, then we gotta do the after treatment, you know, afterwards, whatnot.
Is the dental clinic doing a lot of that dental work, or is that?
Yes. And they do a great job. I mean,
So
they're,
basic money just kind of filtering.
yeah, that money's going to there, it's in the county. So, I mean, it is helping them, and it helps us. They come here and they do the work, you know. We're trying to keep the money in the county as much as possible.
Just so that you know, we had a used dental chair and it tore up, so Albert got some donated and Christie worked on them.
Yes.
And made them work.
And Brandon did
And
too.
Brandon
He
did.
put in the stuff to make it work, you know, it was all of us working together to make that chair work, but it does work, you know. So my dentist happened to have about 3 or 4 chairs. And then he told me once we just done, we could sell whatever we got left. And I'm gonna work on doing that to try to get some money off of it, get put back into our, I don't know where to go to our dental fund or something. It's gotta go somewhere, so, but we'll get it once they sell the chairs, or what's left of the chairs after we break them.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
On your stock evaluations, I know it's not a lot of money, but, is TennCare not sending mobile prices to you guys?
These are the psych evaluations for my employees.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted
To make sure, and believe it or not, guys, which I can't talk much about it, but we have had some that do not do well on them. So, it does happen.
Yeah, second question, is the medical cost due to drugs or is it care?
Drug use from, or the drug.
Drug costs that you're having to provide for the inmates.
We do have to provide a lot of or prescription drug, I guess, whatever you want to call
Insulin
it.
and stuff like that.
Medicine, insulin, whatnot, for inmates.
And we do have more.
But now we don't do pain, we don't do the oxycodone, hydrocodone, we don't do those. It's ibuprofen, when they get their teeth pulled, it's all just ibuprofen.
So.
We list up their medications every month when it goes to the bill.
But blood pressure, HIV, that's a big cost for us.
Albert and I both look at those, and if we see something that we're familiar, that it's a name brand, we say, you know, can you not get us a generic on this? And Albert has successfully done that on a lot of them, you know, but some of them, you can't get generics on them now. They have the same problems that everybody else has.
Well, you know, generic companies are being bought out by venture capitalists right now. So like a bag of erythromycin that used to cost $30 is now $2,000 a bag. So, which is crazy. But, I mean, that's our experience.
Yeah, and they do send us, you know, QCHC, they go through and they call it screen or what, I forgot what they call it, but they go through and they look and they're looking at it monthly to see where we're spending, what our high dollar prescriptions are. And I can get a list of it at any time. All I gotta do is ask for it, they'll email it to me, and they're showing me everything we're spending on every pill. And I mean, it's not just, it's more than this, you know, when we start looking at all the meds.
We have HIV prisoners and they're very expensive, as you know that.
So on your HIV prisoners, are they not under a state program?
We're trying to do the Ryan White, I think is what the name of it's called, program. We've been working on that back and forth, trying to get that implemented here. It's close.
We had
We're
one
working on it.
AMS, and it was just out
Yeah, it was 3,000, say 3,000 a month maybe, or somewhere around there, you know.
But then last year when you made a budget, you probably had how many less inmates?
I knew you were gonna ask me that. But it was less, it was in the twos.
It was in,
Yeah.
so 100 less maybe? Or
Yeah, probably around 100,
really
yeah, pretty close. So we're dealing with less inmates, less problems, you know.
Less medical.
Less medical, less food, laundry.
How many open beds you got today?
I wrote that number down, thank goodness, somewhere.
There's been mail aside, right?
I've got 314, so that leaves me 50 beds. But 252 out of those are males that I haven't yet. So on my male side, pretty full.
Yeah.
You know, female side, I do have some openings.
Those numbers change every day based on courts, but Friday, we were actually 2 males overcrowded.
Really?
We're 2 overpopulated as of Friday. Now today's a different day, they may be long.
And an unfinished pod could only be a female pod.
All would be female.
Why did you design? So Village Jail's already overcrowded.
It's getting close to full, getting pretty close.
Our FEMA numbers are way down out there for long now.
So basically, on the jail, I mean, you've got increased costs because you got increased costs, basically. And other than that, it's just a 5% increase, and that's it, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that totals there at the bottom of that one.
So basically, your budget looks real good. I mean, other than your medicine, which you can't control.
I think it does. I feel like the guys have worked really hard on keeping stuff where it's at. You know, and there's all these little bitty things that are in here that did not increase, you know, that the guys are really, like custodial supplies, they're watching that stuff and trying to keep an eye on it and not let it just literally go down the drain with custodial supplies, you know, keeping toilet paper and whatnot down to a minimum. In case anybody's heard, yes, I did take Bibles out of the back of the jail. Okay, and I want to clarify this. The reason I did is they're ripping the papers out and they're putting them over our lights and on our vents, or they're rolling them up trying to arc them. And Bibles are real fine paper. They're almost like rolling paper, the little rollers, you know. So they find a way to burn their coffee and whatnot. But I did have the Bibles put on the tablets that we have. So all they have to do is log onto that tablet. It's an easy scroll. Actually, some of them now like it better than they do having the actual one because it's just easier to read. It's big print, you know, they can read it. They can go anywhere on that tablet. I know it's a little crazy, but that's something we had to do. That paper was ending up everywhere. And sad to say, and I did take a bunch of pictures of it because I had some ladies ask me why I did that, and I showed them the pictures and they couldn't believe it. People would do that to their Bibles, but that's what's happening. Now, I did not take the ones that were intact, like say somebody had one and they were taking care of it. I just not allowing any new ones to come in. So, but you know, if you had their Bible and they're taking care of it and they're watching it and not letting anything happen to it, they can keep it, you know, until they get out of here and then they can go on with it, take it home with them.
Does the cell still have microwaves in it?
Yes, they do. The pod, yeah, every pod has one. Water doesn't get hot enough to make noodles like good, you know, and then of course that helps our cells and it helps calm people, you know, when they can warm their food up or their coffee or whatnot. You know, I know I would be upset if I had to drink cold coffee, you know, it'd make for a bad day.
We're gonna talk about this budget or carry out to the end. I'm good.
Whatever y'all.
Well, they pretty well explained everything, so. That's up to us.
Do we approve this one now, or we wait till the end of the month?
Well, we need to have a discussion and see what we're gonna do.
Is that it? Does anybody, any more questions for me or? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
What do y'all want to do? Talk about this one, or we're going to the ambulance?
We're gonna talk about it, I'd go and talk about it, it's fresh on your mind versus waiting.
Won't talk about it now.
I would, I mean, what's right here in front of us, we just talked about it, and, just seems a lot easier to do it now. What do you think, Carol?
Gotta get some of it over with sometime.
Well, I'm gonna propose, and then everybody else can put their 2 cents worth. That we keep the budget as same as it was last year, less the money from the
talked about the sheriff one night now.
and the jail.
So what about
And
increase?
then when things improve, then we can help them. But we have got to stop spending. We've got to stop spending more than what we're taking in.
Well,
And if we keep improving these budgets, we're not gonna be able to do it.
I would definitely support some of that, and then some of that, I think the employees are long overdue as far as more than a 3%, because, when you look around countrywide, to keep employees, companies are giving them working bonuses to, I'll give you an example, a former employer I worked at, their top out rate was say $25 an hour, you come in at 17, they took that top out rate and moved it day one, you're starting at 25. And I don't think sheriff's office is the only office that does lose employees because of pay. You look at it countywide, you're gonna keep people, well, they always say you gotta pay them. And 5% of 30,000 ain't but $1,500 a year. So when you look at the numbers, yeah, it sounds like a lot, but in reality, it's not that much to a single parent that has trouble paying daycare. So that's one support role I would. And I think we're being kind of hypocritical when we pick on the cars, for example, because we're going to throw ARP money statement. I think we would have to go to each department that is receiving, which I don't think there's many, and say, okay, you take out what ARP money you're getting out of your budget as well. We didn't do that. We didn't have that discussion on any others.
So
So,
we made an agreement last year, Richard, that we had to go 5 vehicles per year.
mhm.
If we ain't wanting to stick with what we agreed to, we need to get the house.
Well, I agree. It's not about that.
I agree with that.
But if you got a set budget and you plan for this, okay, it's almost like a little bonus. We can't rely on ARP money. We probably may never get it again. But what other chance would we ever have to get additional vehicles for these guys to drive?
That's right.
But it sure didn't take us long to spend the 4.1
Right, $4.5 million, right.
that we got from ARP.
Exactly.
It's gone.
Exactly.
It is gone. It's-
Exactly.
And now we're sitting in the same shape.
I don't think you never saw us coming either.
Right.
That's when we should hold back on the budget. And when that money comes available, I'm 100% for giving all employees in the sheriff's office a substantial, pay as a bonus.
Right.
Well, due to rising costs,
And it would be more, it would actually be more if we gave them a bonus than it would.
Well, I'd say for all employees, I just wasn't isolating at this, because if you probably look at it, I think every department's probably gonna ask for 5%. So that is overall my idea on that, but, you know, when you look, talking about $300,000 for vehicles, for example, when you go next year, you're gonna buy them, we're probably gonna pay an additional, who knows what, 10 to 50,000 for those 5, with another year wait.
well, this is my 2 cents on the cars. They ain't gonna be no cheaper next year than they are this year. We go ahead and take the ARP money, buy the 5. We buy 3 in the budget this year and buy 2 next year, because they will be more expensive next year. And then we'll be back to the 5 rotation the year after. That way that we're not getting the 5. They would get 8 this year, but only get 2 next year. Does that make sense, y'all?
You're saying cut out next year?
Well, you would, in essence, you would have the 5 from ARP money, which would go into that. But you would buy 3 this year on what's budgeted, so we would decrease it to 2 vehicles. But next year only budget 2, but the year after that, whoever's in office gonna realize that's gonna have to go back up to 5 because we agreed to the rotation. It would help this year and this year, and hopefully by then we'll have better management in the big house up there, and we can get inflation back down. That's just my thoughts.
I could go with that.
I agree with that.
It's the same thing, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, basically.
We're just paying, we're getting it this year versus next year, saving a little bit of money.
Yeah, we saved for decreased budget.
Yeah,
by 40%.
even though we're not getting the 10,
3 more this year,
they go to 2 next year.
2 next year.
Same thing.
Yeah.
When next year come, we need to stick what we want.
Yeah, then the year after that would be
Because
back
we
up
ain't
to
going
5.
to, we did what we done now.
Basically, we're
We're
getting,
not sticking with what we said.
we're
Nah,
getting,
you-
we're getting a budget relief for the next 2 years, but then it's gonna have to kick back
Well, we
in.
got all this ARP money coming, you know, why not take this out of the budget now? And then ARP money comes, I'll be willing to say, yes, give them some extra cars in that ARP money.
That's on the record.
And I think that's the fairest way that we could do it. But we should take these out of the budget, and then when the ARP money comes, we'll do some cars
Yeah.
and get it on the 5-year rotation.
But my point on the whole thing is, we don't know where inflation's gonna end up.
Well, nobody knows
Yeah,
that.
and- Yeah, I know, nobody knows.
I don't think anybody did it when they voted for what they voted for.
Shouldn't have voted for Biden, I told you not to.
Well, he's your buddy.
We are at an impasse.
No.
Everybody has different opinions on the vehicles.
Why?
Well, does it not make good sound fiscal sense to take the budgets out now, the vehicles out, and then give them vehicles in the American Recovery Act money? I mean,
And we've already passed
Go around
that
there and ask
resolution
everybody.
for 5 coming out of the ARP money.
absolutely.
I'm not saying go back on it, no.
No, those 5 are done.
Yeah, I'm not saying go back and do something different, no.
Or
What I've got.
do what?
Keep in mind, I'll be a year out from getting, whether we order
What
5
line?
or 8
I
or 2.
understand.
And I still gotta operate the shop to keep up the cars I got for that year that I'm waiting.
Let me say something. Chris brought this up, and I don't care if it's a sheriff car, an ambulance, a tractor. This chip issue is not gonna be corrected for at least 2, 3 more years. So we need to keep that in mind in all of these purchases in all departments. It's not a sheriff or dealership problem or an ambulance, it's this chip, and Dusty could probably explain that a lot better than I can. But it's not gonna be any better next year than it is this year.
Is the fleet decent right now, or has you got some older vehicles?
We've got a number of problems now, and it's basically all the same problems.
Drivetrain,
All
axles,
wheel drives and
transmission?
axles.
But we're still gonna have them problems because you're not gonna get these vehicles next year, right?
Yes.
So.
It's still gonna cost you more money to keep up on.
Do you trade them in, or they just stay settlement gov deal?
Cause I know so far this year, I've already moved, I think, $33,000 into the shop lines to cover repairs from other lines.
So if we
It's
stuck,
almost a car, how much a car costs.
Yeah. Well, if you figure up all my garage lines and how many cars that we have on the road, you're just looking at less than $2,000 a car in my whole budget. You know, a couple oil changes, a set of brakes, a set of tires,
you're there.
and you've shot that car's budget.
Unless you have them under warranty. Of course, that oil change doesn't cover our warranty though, or
Or tires.
tires, sure.
Cause it's just like everything else, we checked last week, we're going through a drum of oil a month. A drum of oil is now about $800.
What was it a year ago?
6 something.
Open the Keystone Pipeline
Amen.
and start digging for more.
Because it all comes out of the middle of the earth, whether you suck it out on this side or this side.
got a proposal on it for us.
So, say for instance, this ARP money wasn't even in the picture, we would still buy 5, wouldn't we? And we're getting a bonus of 5 more vehicles, which will help the fleet.
Yeah, next year.
Well, whenever they come in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Harsh
we
will
will
just leave the
save
budget
money
buying
in the
5.
long run by rotating those cars and getting 5 a year. And
Right, yeah.
And the sheriff's department can make it work by rotating those cars, and then the cars that's rotated out every year, then they can hand them down to whoever else is using the car. You know, the 5 a year will go on patrol, and their hand downs can go to the other people. And if it's managed right, I mean, it can work, can it not? Do y'all agree?
Next patrol is going into the most.
Right, absolutely, 100%.
So when you cut the purchase order for 10 cars, that price sticks until the following year once you receive the cars, correct?
Correct.
So right now, we're at 7.9% inflation rate. So the new inflation rate comes out tomorrow. So we need to, and like you said, we got probably 3 or 4 more years for even this, we even see a correction in the inflation rates or anything. Probably be longer.
They're projecting 8.1, 8.2 on the next rate. Yeah.
So what you're doing, if you buy all 10 on a purchase order, that you don't have to put any cash out, take the ARP money, put it into some account, whatever. I know the interest rates are coming up a little bit, but gain some money on that and wait for that car to come in, it's gonna offset your cost. So you save the 8.2%, let's say, on all your purchase for the next year. And then you take that ARP money and put it into a interest-bearing account to make up to even more money. It would be better to buy 10 cars this year. Would that not be right?
ARP money is an interest-bearing account.
Oh, it is, okay, already.
The whole, the cumulative amount, the cumulative amount.
So we're not gonna get no interest off that money.
I agree with Joe, and I think it would be better to get the 10.
But it has to be spent, I think, by 2024, is that correct? 2024, the ARP money?
26.
26?
26.
Okay.
Adam, how much did you say that car price was on the floor?
44, and it went up to 46 when we added the options that we added.
Is that on the state bid? Is that what y'all looking at?
Yes, state bid.
State bid.
Which one, the Explorer,
Yeah,
with or without outfitting?
without.
Without outfitting, $33,119.
That's today, right?
26.
Well, that's the last,
That's the last.
the last comparison that I have.
What was the charge?
The Charger.
But you're saying you cannot order those until after you go into the
25.
after June 30?
There's
You
no-
can't order them now at all?
ARP money,
ARP.
we have to wait till we get the next draw because see, it's by draws.
But
And
even
the sheriff
if
is
we
in the second
approve,
draw, and it'll be here, it was my understanding, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong. May?
Yeah,
June,
we're
before
looking,
it gets here.
yeah, about 45 days, we'll get the second half of the draw.
And where I'm going with this, what Joe was talking about, saving money, that's what I was trying to say a while ago. Is according to Ford, what Ford is telling us, they're looking at a 12% increase on those vehicles. So 12% increase is $33,974. You times that by 5 vehicles, that's $52,990. If we wait till next year, it'll cost us that much more.
So it basically costs about 60 grand probably by then.
Plus the 12% on the outfitting.
It's about 14 outfitting. But the outfitting, it costs about the same. If it's a Dodge, Chevy, Ford, it doesn't matter. It's almost exactly penny to penny outfit cost. Center consoles, the cages, all that's about the same money.
And say that if we stay uniformly in our vehicles,
Yes.
we,
Transfer equipment.
the cost of transferring that equipment from 12 or 14,000 down to a couple of thousand per car.
And we have with the camera system, we're rotating those out, these 5 goes out of service, those cameras will go into the new 5. Switching from Ford to Dodge, they will be, the consoles and cages will be different. If we stay with the Ford like we've got with these 5 out here, as time goes and they rotate out, that's something we can do, as long as they don't change time styles. But that's might as well say $53,000 increase if we wait and order those 5 more next year. And that's what I was saying about either doing 5 this year or 10 this year. If we do 10, we actually save $53,000. But now you can times that by 2, because if it's 2 years from now when we do the other 5, then you're gonna be at $120,000 increase.
As soon as the ARP money gets here, we will drop that in your budget, and at that point, you can order those 5.
Those 5.
If you put 5 in the budget here, it will be after July 1, that he can order those. That's when it's legal.
And we try to get those ordered as quick as possible, just so they don't hit, because normally that 12% comes in around November or so when they do the year model changes, and they increase the value of the vehicle. And that's what I'm saying, we can eliminate the 4th year of purchase of vehicles. And when you do 12% a year, you're gonna get 36% increase in 3 years per vehicle.
Would the Explorer also work as a K9?
Oh, yeah, that work is anything.
Yeah. Would.
Yeah, that work is anything. So with 30%, 36% increase in 3 years, I mean, you're adding a lot of money per car. And we can eliminate that 4th year because it's 20 vehicles.
Yeah, but if we get all those cars now, and they're wore out in them 3 years, we still in the same position. We gotta pay for new cars. I mean, there's, I understand exactly what you're saying, but the fact remains, if we give you 10 cars now, and 3 years, you're gonna come back and say, we gotta have 10 more cars, cause these are wore out. I mean,
Depends on how they don't go.
yeah,
And
that's what I'm
these,
saying.
we don't know about these because we've never had these before. The Dodges, yes, at 3 years, we're gonna be back saying we need more money, but they have been terrible for a time. And the pricing is just crazy. And I know Luke drove them, I drove them, these old Crown Vics, they ran forever. And I hope Ford has done the same thing with these Explorers. That's something, I mean, we drove those things 300,000 miles and never had no problems out of it. Actually, still have some in the fleet, and they've not made a Crown Vic in years. They're just good cars, real good cars. Just something.
I guess my question is to Libby or the mayor, either one of them answer this. If we agree to put 5 cars in the next American Recovery Money, is that not gonna save us a whole lot more than it would if we put $380,000 in these cars tonight?
Well, county commission's already approved that proposal, so that was done last county commission meeting.
By the 5 cars.
The 5, the cars for
I
the
understand
sheriff
that,
department.
but we got more money coming.
No, that was the whole thing, that was distributed everybody on both draws. That plan was laid out, when the ambulances, when the sheriff cars, when the highway department, all that was laid out in 2 draws. I mean, all that's been laid out.
So we spent the $9 million before we get it.
We've not spent a penny yet. It's been projected.
But is that, are you saying that that's what we've agreed to do?
Yes.
Last commission meeting.
Well, I voted no, so, and now I understand why better than I voted no, because we've obligated $9 million that we could have used a whole lot differently than what we're using it.
Yeah, we could not help the
I
cities.
mean, that's just like the radios.
Could not help the
We're
cities.
building 2 towers and spending how much money, Mayor?
3 million.
3 million. 3 million for 2 towers, and we're paying the city of Chattanooga to let us operate on them. That just don't make any physical sense to me.
Well, I'm ready to, if we won't go around, I'm ready to go around, or we'll be here all night talking about stuff that's not really related.
But it is the fact that we just don't have what it takes.
We have what it takes in long.
No. I mean, the technology that Chattanooga has to run it. So that's all
What
I'm
do you mean
saying.
they don't have technology?
Huh?
Let's get on radio.
Monroe County doesn't have what it takes.
Let's talk about sheriff's budget right here.
Well, no,
Let's just talk about sheriff's budget. We'll get the radios another day.
That is
Officers, county employees.
What's that?
That's part of the
That's IT, eh? Radio. So what is, if we approve the budget the way they presented to us, what does that do to the overall fund balance? Have you got projected into that, or? I mean, I agree if we are to buy 10 now with Joe, like he said, because it's gonna cost more, 60, 70,000 more to taxpayers in the future.
Thank you.
And this is just a rough draft, but I put,
You know what really aggravates me? We spent $9 million and we never even had a workshop on
We had 3 workshops, you had a committee that decided
it.
that.
The committee, we
Committee
did
decided.
not have a workshop.
That come up committee and you brought it up meeting.
Yeah, but we did not have a workshop.
Just
for
cause
the
you
overall
voted for it, just
committee.
cause you don't vote for it, don't mean everybody else don't think it's right, they voted for it. So, I mean, sorry,
so I've got different columns
it
here.
is.
The very right column, if you don't give a raise, you don't do anything, don't give anybody anything they ask for, we're going into fund balance $349,000. There's a column that's got 3%, if you give a 3% across the board, give everything, everybody, everything they ask for, is $1.2 million, we're going into fund balance. And under the 22-23 department request, if you give a 5% raise across the board and give every department everything they ask for, we'll be going into fund balance $1.5 million.
And just to confirm, this is everybody's budget, not just the sheriff, or this
This
is
is
the whole
101.
county budget.
This is 101,
And how much was turned in last year?
3.6.
Out of 1 year?
Yeah.
So we'll never see 1.5 going in fund balance.
More than likely not.
But we had it for years.
So basically we'll-
88%.
Right.
$1.5 million would be turned back in from what projected to be.
What's fund balance right now?
They-
Cause we put some of it into savings.
And you go to the gas pump, you go to the grocery store, the employees, it deserves 5%. Because it's ridiculous out there. But we can't burn their tax dollars anymore.
Get a tax increase.
And, like I said, I think it's a, kind of
Did
a,
you vote for them?
I kind of think it's a reward as far as these departments turning their money back in. I mean, you know, it's a good thing that they do, when you can have that kind of money to return back. But they just don't, they could have very easily spent every dollar of it and never seen any of it back.
That's the reason we should have the budget based on what they used last year.
That's another thought.
I mean, common sense, okay, if you make a budget and then you go and not spend all that budget and you turn money back, that money comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, any way you look at it. Get a little bit back, but look at the money that it takes out. And to me, it would look real simple that if a department turned in $300,000 last year, then their budget should be $300,000 less this year. I mean, does that not make sense?
It does.
I know some things. some things are put into budgets for what ifs. What if something tears up, whatever, and we gotta be weary that as a commission, you know, say Brandon has every heat and air unit go down, heaven forbid.
And then you gotta wait 30 days to fix that heat and air, to
Yeah.
get approval to fix that heat and
Well,
air.
yeah, but we should have an emergency
At a meeting.
plan in place.
Well, this time last year, diesel wasn't $5 a gallon.
Exactly.
So, or if you want, of course, I ain't gonna be here, so, but if you're gonna have more meetings, come and have an emergency meeting every week, because people need something right then, and they don't have a budget
That's
for
true
it.
too, yeah.
I mean, you can have a lot of budget, man, it'll be worse than school. All in, I'm just saying, I mean, it's not-
So on the sheriff's budget, it looks like you average turning in $285,000 a year. Turning back in that you didn't use your budget. Most of that was for what? Salaries? I mean, according to what I've got here, it was for salaries, benefits, dues, deputy, captain, fringe. Investigator, there's one for a grant, maintenance, travel, gas, stuff like that. Gas, you know.
You can't always run a full salary, you might have.
Right, yeah, there may be some times. But it varies somewhat.
But if there's an emergency, we can always come back and approve more money.
I think we can have 3 call meetings a year.
You got a whole lot more than that.
And whose rule is that?
I think that's the comptroller of
See,
Tennessee.
See, there again, the comptroller of the state of Tennessee don't pay our tax dollars. The people of Monroe County pays those tax dollars.
So of your increase in your sheriff's budget, you moved them officers over from the jail budget, and that increased it probably a little bit more than half of what you're asking for, is that not right?
Probably, yes.
I mean, it was 163, then plus the benefits, salaries, or Medicare and all that, so it's probably about 200, give or take, for the 379. Really, it's not much of an increase you're asking for.
Correct. My increase is.
Saving on one and add to the other. It's a wash, pretty much.
You know, just quick math here in my head, you know, it's less than 30,000 total increase in the lines I'm asking for.
So that's on the, they may ask that, I was looking at this, that's 2 court officers, how many court officers are moving to the sheriff? 4. 4, okay. Yeah, 4. And the difference between the 155,000, 163,000 is the 5% raise that you're wanting them to have.
Right.
We did lose one under the jail side because they're a non-certified officer. The other ones are post-certified. That's one of the new buildings that the jail side. Monitoring will be clear.
Because it said on your explanation, it says you're making hourly position salary and raising it to match 2 others. So, are you just raising it 5%? I ain't made the calculations on it.
No, we raised one, we was in the same boat. One made one thing, one made another. So we evened those out. But then we made it salary. One was hourly, one was salary. So I'll make up that difference in overtime.
So how would this work? So we're averaging 285 turned in a year. So if we decrease the budget 125,000, would you have to go in and change them by line item, and they still would get their raise, or would it be just, I mean, that's what I'm kinda trying to figure out, how would that wash out to make it look right for the comptroller?
These, what they come back in is for a variety of reasons, and
But
it's
yeah, I
a
know
variety
that.
of lines, and you would have to tell him which line you're going to reduce in order to do that. You know, it's like, my
Yeah.
department, for example, I have 12 computers in my department, and I have them on
Right.
rotation. And I may buy 2 or 3, but if I have enough money, I may buy 5. I bought 5 this year, because they have to be rotated, they wear out in 3 to 4 years. And some of these departments won't replace things like that until they're just dead in the floor.
Right, yeah, I
And
understand.
then we have a Dustin problem, you know, and he has to go in and save the day. So just because they don't use it one year doesn't mean that they won't use that next year.
So, we got, what, 2.5 months left of this budget, or
Yeah, and
of this year's budget? What percentage do they use right now?
well, we would have to look at everybody. Ideally, they should have used 75% plus, about 77, 78%.
Yeah.
I look at the sheriff's department today, and I look at the ambulance department. And I'm gonna tell you, they've got lines that are gonna run over, and they'll be grabbing money from other lines
Right.
to make that work. It's just like, medical, they're gonna need money in medical, either that. If you don't leave that money in there, then they're gonna have to come to you every time they start to go over, because we won't pull a purchase order for them if they don't have the money in that line. But they can't move it. It's against the law. We will just say, you don't have money, you can't do it. And it's not, and then the ambulance comes along, and their diesel is already over. And gasoline is over. You'll have to tell him which line that you want to reduce. You'll have to tell us which line you want to reduce. If you want to give them 5%, they'll have to go in and she'll look at every line for 5%, then she'll reconfigure the fringe benefits, because they're all based on a percentage of the salary. And so that has to be done. That's the reason they turn money back in. They don't just try to blow the budget and spend everything.
Well, I mean, everybody's mindful of their money.
Everybody does that. I mean, I spent several days this week getting this together, because you wanted to see it, and I sent out every one of you for 3 years. You
We
know,
appreciate it.
historically, it's $3 and $4 million. I had to run a report on every budget at year end to do this, which is fine, that's fine. Because you needed to see it, but you can't just say, okay, we're gonna knock off 200,000, because we need to know where you're gonna knock it off. You know, if y'all wanna do that, well, we can do that, we can, I don't, do they have overhead projectors here, Dustin? Or we have to do it by computer?
We use these screens here.
We can print your report, actually, I have them here, we can put every one of them up there, and you can say, take 10,000 out of this line, take $323 out of this line, and we'll go over it line by line by line, because that's the way you do it, Isabel. That's the way you do it.
But if we leave it exactly the same as it was last year, we wouldn't have to go through all that stuff.
That's right. You know, you could do that, but you're gonna have, there are some things you're gonna have to increase, such as diesel, gasoline, medical. Everything in the sheriff's department is basically based on the number of prisoners they house. And believe me, we don't get anywhere near enough money from the state of Tennessee to reimburse a third of what it costs us to keep a prisoner here.
From a financial standpoint, you think that we should approve the budget like it is?
I'm not going to voice an opinion on, I don't have a dog in this race, if you want to use an old country saying. This is not my decision to make.
But you are a financial person.
Yes, but I don't tell you how to set a budget. I'll give you any information you want, but I'm not gonna set your budget for you.
If you take out the court officers, Chris, if you take out the court officers and the 50-something thousand that the cars are gonna cost more, 51,495.
What you can do, Commissioner Wright, if you wanna set it at the same thing it was last year, then when they come in and we get to this point next year and we can't pay our bills, then we have to say, okay, Monroe County can't pay their bills because the budget is not set for this, and we'll come to county commission, there'll be resolution after resolution coming out of fund balance, going back into these lines.
Yeah.
Because that's where it comes from. You're gonna get it out of fund balance one time or the other.
It'd be one meeting where that's all you're doing, and the next meeting.
We'll be
we're
there.
gonna say-
It could be every month, it could be every month, it could be every month.
Well, school board has 3 or 4 pages every month. So what would be the difference?
And our budget, their budget, it's pretty tight, like whatever they use, that's what's in their budget, and they have to ask for money just about all the time when they need something.
But their revenue is different from our revenue.
I understand that.
It is.
Theirs is set, theirs is more set, and ours is kinda more variable, or?
Well, they get different, they have different resources.
Yeah, our resources are full taxpayers.
Well, what if we do this? We decrease the cars by 2. And then at the end of the year, they see they're gonna turn in that $112,000. They can go ahead and purchase the 2 cars with it. We may have to do a resolution for it, but, you know, if they've got unused money that they're turning in, historically it's been averaging 285 or something. So they can-
I'm sorry, Eric, but the thing about that is, they probably ain't gonna know until June.
Well, I know they
or
won't
August.
know, but they can go ahead and order them out of that budget.
Sometimes it's August, bump in September.
And you can't go
before we
back,
can close the
you can't go
books.
back, cause you're out of, see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
We have to have them closed by the end of August. And it takes till the end of August to close them. Because there are invoices out there, there are purchase orders, they'll come in and, you know, on the 28th day of June, and they'll roll a purchase order. Because, you know, they need things.
Guess we'll have to think on it and approve something later.
Chris, if we said, hey, we want you to cut two line items in here, which 2 line items would you start with?
She's not gonna do that.
You need to say, we have to approve.
708 wouldn't kill me. Unless I have to buy more radios, depending on how many cars we get and how many radios I've got in the back.
Don't bring up radios.
How many radios are there?
Oh.
This opens up the door, and the public should have a right to know this stuff. How many radios does the sheriff's department have in their inventory today?
7 per officer.
I think it's 64 mobiles and 64 portables. I'd have to look to be absolutely sure, but I'm 90-something% on that number.
They're saying that you got 206.
Well, they are lying. I've got 64.
Then who produced it? You gave me
That
the
comes,
figures.
that comes from our radio list, Chattanooga. There, you got sheriff department, they got more in the jail.
The total radios in the sheriff's department is 260, is it not?
No.
You'd have to, you want
Is
sheriff and
that
jail?
list not right?
Sheriff and jail, you
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah, you just talking sheriff department. That's what you asked,
Yeah.
sheriff department. How many you got sheriff and jail?
How many did you buy, Albert, for jail?
25.
wasn't here when they bought it.
Out of that, the only ones that got radios out of that for us was we got 2 radios, one for a vehicle, one handheld. And every deputy got a handheld and a mobile unit, and every detective got both. The SROs only got handheld radios, the one they were patrol vehicles. So you're looking at, I'm guessing, I'll give this number, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 30, 36, 16, probably about 70 radios. And that's detectives, narcotics, patrol, admin.
I don't have it here in front of me, but the report that Chad gave me, we have 700 and something radios. And it shows the sheriff's department has got 260, and you've got 100 employees. I mean, that's the only question I asked.
Well, that would be no way, because the jail staff is sharing, they have a radio, we have a radio for each shield, and there's 6 or 7 on the shield, and they're swapping their batteries.
That's what I'm saying, so where's all these radios at, that we spend $4 million for?
I'd like to see that list myself.
Oh, I've got the list, I just don't have it in front of me now, and Chad produced the list.
And that list was made before I got in office, too, by the way.
Yeah, but the radios was bought.
Yeah.
Were they at?
The original list,
Plus the ones that's been added, it's the.
Yeah, and that don't include the one that they gave you last year, the extra $140-something thousand worth of walkie-talkies.
I think it should include it, but it may not, I don't know, I have to look back at it.
Chad, to answer your question, I mean, we're under, on these lines, the reductions to come in, we're supposed to be at 75% used as far as right now. On the deputies, we're at 68%, but that's because we've had some quit and we'll hold that line open for a while. We're under budget on the investigator line because I'm holding a position open in it. We're at 65%, so we're 10% under budget on it, but we can't cut it because when we have an employee back in it, that's gonna be back to 100% funded. But at the same time, like Libby was saying a while ago, on the accounts and bookkeepers, we're at 81%. So in those salary lines, we'll move money at the end of the year to balance those. And part-time personnel, we're on at 67% usage and should be at 75, but they're again trying to project for next year. I don't know how many people is gonna be out sick, and we'll have to cover them with part-time employees. So that line could be up. You know, salary, wages, and overtime pay, we're only at 28% of the budget in it. But again, that's gonna depend on if we have a train derailment out here, how many people's gonna have to come out and work at, how much overtime we're gonna be paying. I mean, it's just a hard question to answer. I can't really say which line we would pull the money out of.
But you know, if you cut those lines this year, we can need them next year.
Very possible, yes.
Yeah.
That's what, there are some things you cannot plan for. There are just things that happen you cannot plan.
You can't.
So
like inflation.
here's what I suggest. I think all the raises should be on hold until we get to the end of the budget season and see where we are as a county.
That's what we've always done.
And so put that on hold and go from, like Chris said, let's do 3 and 2. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was one of my original,
Okay. Or 2 and 3, or whatever.
2.5.
Car, it's still in production.
Yeah.
Any idea how much the 5% raise is? You have that just in their budget?
Yeah, I mean, we are getting
What's that
alleviated on
cost
2
us?
cars, 112,000, so, this year, which would help the budget quite a bit.
Just 101, and this is salaries only, this is not the benefits, social security or nothing, it's 457,000.
That's everybody though, or below, okay. So just sheriff department's 111, whatever, okay. I see what you're saying.
Oh, yes. I thought I seen it somewhere. I looked.
How many employees do we have?
Perpetuity.
Somewhere a little bit over 200, but that counts part-time and full-time.
And that's in just 101, or is that highway?
That's highway and solid.
Countywide.
I don't know how you got it, we're going to right, so, just to be honest.
That does include TIGs right there, that number you skipped.
It includes one.
And does include solid waste or road.
No, that's just one.
What, nothing?
5% for highways, 101,000, and 5% for solid waste is 21,000.
That's about right. You still got one more page. I know that's what we done.
Chris, keep in mind, highway and solid waste have their own separate fund
Yes,
balances.
yes.
Joe, do you have proposals?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, we're not getting too far with anything tonight, but I like the ideas of the 3 and 2, and that helps Luke on his, the part of, the transition of cars, having 1 year a little bit less, and then that way you got next year, you got a couple cars that might come up the following year rather than all 5 at the same time, or all 10 at the same time, so.
Right.
We'll be looking at 8, in the next year or so.
Is there areas of the county sedans would work? Or is it just all terrain?
Well, the problem is not necessarily
It's
the
driving.
county, it's the driveways.
Yeah.
So the SROs are driving sedans.
They're driving, they got the oldest thing we got.
So they drive everything that's
Yeah, yeah.
at the end.
Majority of it's in Crown Vics, just tells you how old they are.
Yeah.
Can we go around the room with Joe's proposal, please?
Is this the cars? 3 and 2 cars?
Yeah, and no, and leave the raises out for now till the end, right?
Right.
Is that what you want?
Leave raises out.
Look at the end.
So what are you saying, Chad? That we're gonna stay at the same budget except the cars?
He's saying, leave the raises to the end, right, Joe? And then move the car budget down to 3 instead of 5. And then the other line items, if you just wanna go through and nitpick them.
The line items that they're proposing, these, like the food, the laundry, that kind of thing, that's all contract, right? That's their contracted, that's gonna be in the contract itself, going up 3.5% a year, so, there's nothing you can do about that. Drugs and everything else is just gonna keep going up, so they'll be back asking for that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
For now.
I'm okay with it right now. For that.
I'm good.
Decreasing cars too, and we'll wait and make a decision on raises at the end.
3 this budget, 2 next budget?
Well, 3 this year, isn't it?
3, okay, yes, that's what we're deciding on.
No raises.
We'll look at the raises.
Raises at the end, yeah, at the end of the day.
We didn't say no raises.
Yeah.
Look at raises at the end.
People need more money, I was gonna just be honest on record. We can't afford it as a tax.
And the poor taxpayers needs more money too. So,
I'm
you
a
know,
taxpayer, Lou.
Yeah, I am too.
You gotta balance.
Vote that way, man, vote that way.
Yeah,
Vote that way.
yeah, that's why we got the option. I'm good with it right now.
So we're good?
Yeah. How about the jail budget?
So were you saying, in the jail budget, just to clarify, leave the increase in medical
Yes.
and in the food and laundry?
And wait on raises.
I think you have
And
to.
wait on raises.
And you're leaving my budget as is, or the increases in the
Stay the same.
fuel in the shop?
No, we're gonna have to, the
Increase in
fuel,
fuel
the
cost.
increase in fuel will be there.
It's gonna be
I mean,
the increase of tires, tubes, et cetera, that's gonna be there.
yeah.
So I think we're
what-
decreasing or taking the raises off for
I
now.
like what we decided, what Joe's proposal was just wait about the raises and take out 2 cars. Everything else
Good.
is whatever you ask for. Right, Joe?
Yeah.
What do you think, Bill?
That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, I mean, this year's gonna be tough. I mean, so
That's what we do.
that's fine. For everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
I'm not.
Let's take a bathroom break. 5 minutes.
here, then we up the loop. I reallocated it here. So with this one, there will be new money. The money's already in the market.
Well, no, and this one, I believe, get his calculator, explain that to them.
I think it's 1,000 for
Because it was, they can't take all this together. They still come up with the interest and everything, came up with $47,000.
Everybody knows Randy, but I don't think everybody just call me Aiden when I just Randy's a citizen.
56, 58. That's what it is.
Randy comes to this budget, right?
Yes.
And, in your packet, you have a budget, but I had to do a correction, so I'm giving you a new copy. It's just the top sheet, everything else is.
Do you want us to just give that one back to you? Is that what you're thinking?
If you want to, you can.
While she's in that out, how's the staffing work? Since we revolved it.
It's awesome. Right now, we're fully staffed. We have, I think 3 applicants waiting to be hired. So, he actually, we were just talking out in the hall. We got contact today from, actually a couple people just got their license to live down in Consaga, want to work part-time, so, we're actually, Chris, we're doing better than any service around us right now as far as staffing goes.
Well, that's great to hear.
If you remember last year when we were here, I think we were like 12 short.
Yeah, and you've got 2 trucks in Athens, man?
Yeah, well, we have 2 trucks in Sweetwater, yes.
Duh.
We do. We have a 24 and a 12 over there now. Yep, which we do. Except a lot.
Morale seemed to be better.
Yes. Well, changing shifts, I think, helped us a lot in that area and getting
Go back to 1-3.
people hired. They're doing a 24/72.
1 day on, 3 days
Days
off.
off, yeah. And it didn't cost us any more money to do that, and it actually allowed us to make their hourly rate go up, which helped a lot about recruiting and getting people in to work. But anyway, and my budget, y'all ready? I just sat here, me and Chris just talking. If y'all ready, in my budget, what I did this year, guys, is you'll see the biggest increase that you're going to see is in the employees. I've asked for 4 more employees this year for another 12-hour truck is what we're wanting to put on. And the reason we're wanting that truck is now we're running on 424s and a 12-hour truck in Sweetwater. And we're still not being able to catch all the calls that we need to catch. We're having a lot of the convalescent calls and stuff during the day that we're having to either cancel the calls or not run the, or postpone it for another day. Or we're actually late getting there and the doctors are turning this way because the patient don't get there on time. So, and figuring that there, I think that cost us like $316,000 for those employees. That's total, right? That was total with benefits and all for that. We asked for increases in our medical supply line of $20,000, fuel line of $20,000. We asked for $2,000 in tires. Those increases there, if you'll look down at let's see, line number 101, 55, 130, 610, you'll see we had a principal loan. Capital lease is what was taken out about 5 years ago, I believe, 5 or 6 years ago, from cardiac monitors. This year we paid that lease off. We had money left in that line, so we're just reallocating the money that was in that line, which was like $47,403. We reallocated it to those areas that we needed to increase with the with the fuel lines, uniform lines, and the tires. So actually, that's $47,000. We only increasing there about a little over $10,000 in those lines for new, what would be called new money, other than the employees that we've asked for. Now, the thing, a lot of times you want to know, well, if you're increasing it and you're asking for new money, how you going to pay for it, right? What we're going to do is, last year, if you remember, if you look at the budget, I think Libby gave this to everyone. If you look at this sheet here. Last year, you see that over the last 3 years, in 3 budget years, we started out in 18-19, we were $291,000 in the hole. That was the first year I came. The second year that we were here, we cut that to $33,284. Last year in our budget, we actually made within the black $457,284. So that was in the black. We went back. So it took us a little while to get there, but we got there. And that was through COVID. And during that time, we've actually replaced all of our fleet. And with the county only having to purchase 1 ambulance, all those other ambulances were purchased with other funds. So, but with that increase this year, we're changing our reporting system for our tickets. We're going away from the old system we have now, going into ESO, which is a lot more better system than what we had before. And this, what it is the system where we actually report our patient care reports through the insurance companies and stuff like that. So we're expecting a $50,000 a month increase once we get that up and running. We're looking to have that up in operations in about 3 weeks. The only thing that's holding us right now is getting the computers in we had to buy. And they actually shipped today, so we should have them in about 3 weeks. So with that $50,000 projected increase a month that we've seen in the cost of living, that should be about $600,000 more in revenue a year. With the 4 employees that we've asked for, what we're projecting is that's going to increase our call volume about 50 calls a month that we're actually losing right now. That we'll pick up those calls, and just at the minimum Medicare rate of $338 per call, that'll be about $202,800 a year. Total revenue will project increase with the ESO and with the 4 employees. We're projecting somewhere around $802,000 a year. And you see what we're asking for increase-wise is just a little over probably $300,000.
Randy, was that 50,000 a month part of it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear all
Yeah,
that. Part of the new building system?
Yeah, the new building system, Richard, what it is the old system we have right now that we've been kind of locked into, we've been trying to get out of it for a while. And when we rebid the building company this year, went through that building process, we asked for that to be changed and go to ESO. And they agreed to it. They actually agreed to that, and they actually dropped us down a percentage point in what they collect. So we got to gain a percentage point back.
Okay.
And instead of taking 5%, I think they're getting 4% now of the total collection. So that saved us a lot of money. But everybody I've talked to who has ESO across the state of Tennessee said they saw a minimum of about $50,000 a month increase in revenue back once they got on that system. So yeah, it's about $50,000 a month, which be about $202,000 a year. And like I said, those 4 employees adding that day truck on, the four new employees, that's going to help us pick up those 50 or so calls that we're dropping a month that we're not being able to get to right now because we just don't have the trucks to get there. So that would increase our revenue as well, $802,000.
Just a question, I guess, for my own, just kind of, on my billing system, is it the issue that people can't pay or the codes, or I remember a while back, some of our committee meetings, we had people that weren't familiar with the codings and it wouldn't get processed right and things like that, but same time, I hear sometimes people can't pay. Is that just a combination of both sometimes?
It is a combination of both. One of the things that we get into with the billing systems, the reason it becomes an issue, and I'll be honest with you, the one we have right now is a bear. I mean, it's when you get into it and you start plugging stuff in, it's hard. It's difficult. It's very, and it's hard to, our paramedic, it's not, I call it, it's not paramedic friendly. As Kobe will tell you, they hate it. They absolutely hate it. And what happens is they plug in information, they get it in, and he'll tell you this, I've actually ripped people up in the whole 9 yards because they don't get all the information that we need in to get it billed correctly.
Right.
If you don't bill it correctly, then you're not gonna get paid.
Right.
See, and that hurts us on the back end.
Yep.
So with the new system that we're going to, the ESO system, it's actually simplified. It gets the information in, but it's a whole lot easier to get it there quicker. Where it's taking them about 45 minutes to an hour to do a ticket now, they can do it in about 10. So it's gonna be a lot better. And it saves up there, so it's more time friendly for them. So, like I said, everybody that I've talked to, and we have a lot of people work here now who's actually worked in other places who use the ESO system, and they really like it because it's very user friendly.
And especially Randy, if they're running back to back to back to back
Yes.
calls, and they have to do their ticketing on the end of the shift.
Yeah.
It's much easier to do a 10-minute ticket than 10 45-minute tickets. And then you get
It
into
is.
all kind, because you want them within that 24-hour window, as far as everything.
Well,
So
we have a 90-day period. If we don't get anything, if it's not filed and into Medicare within 90 days, filed correctly within 90 days, then we don't get paid for it. It gets denied. And most insurance companies are like that. It's kind of like they give you 28 days. It's got to be filed with them. They got to be notified of it for us to get paid. So I think this is going to be, it's going to be better for everybody. I mean, it's going to improve the revenue for the county, and it's going to improve the billing stuff for our employees. It's going to make it more user friendly for them. So it's a win-win for us all the way around. Anybody have any other questions about any of this?
You're only asking for 3,000 in tires.
Yeah.
Well,
If it was 3,000 increase, that's an
sorry.
increase of 3,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking it'd be,
Yeah, Brian, this is 3,000 increase.
Do you have a projected revenue, for this year? What's your revenue?
Right now, we're probably looking at somewhere, I'm thinking we're gonna be around 3.4, 3.3, 3.4. I actually went by today, I called Brooke, she was working on her quarterly report. I know we just got our billing in for March, and it was 287,000.
Actually,
289,000 we collected for the month of March. Usually those months are slower, and they've actually did really well. So we're bumping that 300. If we average 250,000 a month, that gives us 3 million. So anything over that, that's usually my mark I try to hit. If I hit $3 million, then we make our budget. We actually make money that way. But this year we're projecting we're probably going to be over that again. Last year our revenue was 3.2 million. I'm right at 3.3, and we're going to be right there again this year, a little more. And like I say, Joe, I believe once if we get these other employees on board and we get to go to the ESO system, we're going to be somewhere around closer to 4 million in collections a year.
When, on the expenses that you reported in 18, 19, 19, 20, and 2021, is that your total operational budget expenses?
Yes.
So that 2.8 million is what we budgeted
No,
prior year?
2.8 million is what we actually spent. That was our expenditures going out. The budget was somewhere around 3.3, I think, 3.2, 3.3.
I'm just trying to see if we're subsidizing, how much money we're subsidizing after the total budget.
Right.
For the year.
Yeah, we're somewhere usually in that 90% range at the end of the year. This year, and I think Chris alluded to it last year when I was talking about my diesel. He said, "You sure you're going to have enough?" We're probably not. I was talking to Liddy just the other day, and I was telling her that, been about a month or so ago, that we're probably going to have to ask for more money for fuel, because nobody projected that fuel costs was going to double. Our diesel prices last year, I think, when I did my budget, was like $2.85 a gallon. You know, we're $5 and a nickel right now. It's just crazy. So that's tearing my budget up. You know, we're running back to back. The other thing is, you know, is I know in probably a year or so, United talked to the hospitals looking at going to this cardiac rehab or the cath lab over there. I mean, with that, we're going to have to see increased call volumes as well. We're going to have that truck to run those calls. Because one today they're doing those diagnostic casts, we'll have to have a truck dedicated to the hospital while those procedures are going on in case they have to go to Knoxville.
Randy, didn't you tell me that with $5 diesel, it's roughly $1,000 a week to fill a truck up right now?
Mm-hmm.
Per truck, per week?
Yeah.
How much you said, Mitch?
$1,000 a week, like for one truck, you know, just.
And how many per professionals you have?
Right now, we have, let's see, 32. 32 and 36 total, 36 total full-time employees.
And the 4 employees is for the other 2 trucks?
The 4 employees will be for another truck. What we're gonna do with it will be a day truck. It'll be a 12-hour truck that'll come in. Like the Sweetwater truck is right now. That truck will run out of Massacre Station. That'll give us, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna alternate those times to where we'll have 5 trucks running basically for, I think it's 18 hours a day. There'll be like 6 hours a day that we won't have those 5 trucks, it'll just be 4.
Okay, let's forward think here a little bit. I know we've purchased some ambulance. Do we have that in a rotation, or is it as needed? Like we have the police in rotation?
Yeah, like those, what we're doing with those, and we did it again this year, you know, I'm doing those usually on a grant. We're getting 2 a year on a grant. We actually got 2 ordered. Now that's on the way. It's coming off of the ARP money this year. Next year, we've already talked to them on the ECD grant. We're going to get them off of that. So I'm trying to keep it, Chris, where the county's not actually going to purchase those trucks,
Right.
and we can purchase off of grants.
Right.
And as long as we can do that, we'll be good.
Okay, so
But-
it's nothing we really need to worry about?
No. I'm keeping that kind of out of the budget if I can. Those trucks actually, and that's what we were talking about earlier, the vehicle costs. You know, 6 months ago, we could have ordered our ambulances at the same price we got them last year, $147,000. But they went up now to $180. So, you know, I'm glad we don't have to purchase them. Anybody got anything else?
Your total budget is $3,880,000. 788, 50, 61.
Mm-hmm.
So how much is it projected to bring in? How much is it gonna cost the taxpayers, this budget versus what you bring in?
Well, if the budget, if you approve the budget that's projected, and the revenue that we projected that we collect it, it's not gonna cost the county anything, we're gonna make money. Because the way this is set up, my budget is did you say 3.8? 3.6? If it's 3.6 million, right here, just this alone, with it, if we've collected the $802,800 that we're projecting we're gonna collect with these 2 changes, that then we're going to probably make somewhere around $800,000 for the county. Over the budget, yeah. So,
It's really, you can't argue with that, because we're making money. But then-
well, you know,
Obviously, you can't.
yeah. Well, you know, like I said, Again, my goal, like I told you folks before, my goal is not really to make money, it's just to break even. As long as I can break even, I'm happy. You know, I don't want to cost any money, but I don't want it, you know, and there may be some time when we go on a whole little bit. But if you do, if it's something you can sustain, that's fine, but you know, our goal is to try to break even if I can. And if we make money in the process, that's even better. But
Looking at the turned-in money over the last 3 years that you have given them, you know, we've been 679, 879,000, 519,000. Historically, is what you've been, so averaging about 692 a year. And most of that, I know you was always understaffed because all that. So is that something we might could look at taking off the overtime since you're fully staffed, maybe decreasing those budget items some? To make up what we're always turning back in.
You're 24 hours.
He's not really turning it in, because he makes his budget.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like, and my budget's kind of different from everybody else's. Yeah, mine's different from everybody else's, because this is kind of the way I approach it, and the way it was explained to me when I first came here. If I spend a penny, I have to make a penny. It's kind of like, okay, this is a loan, what you ought to do for me is a loan. You loan me this money to operate on, and I have to pay it back.
Right.
So that's kind of the way it works. And so that's the reason I try to, I'm saying I try to break even. So I try to give you back what you give me. And occasionally, we're really good stewards with it and take care of it. And we give you back more than what you invested. And that's what we always want to do, is, you know, try to increase on our investment.
And his, paraprofessionals code is 133. During this year, he rearranged his, schedule and his truck hours, and I have based this budget on that. So you see where it says it's a $552,000 increase, but then full-time overtime, it's a decrease. So this is actually what these people, or what these lines will increase and decrease.
Yeah.
So we increased their hourly pay, so that will decrease their overtime.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a wash.
Well, I understand. So, but this 3% is something we can't mess with, because we did vote in the step, so this has to be in there. So, is that right?
Well, the way that works is the 3% here is across the board for everybody. They'll get it. Now, if you vote not to give the 3%, then those select employees will still get that 2%.
Right. They still get their step. This is addition to that?
No, this is not addition.
Okay.
They get one or the other, Chris. They
Yeah.
either get the 3 or they'll get the 2. But if, you know, the 3's in there for everybody, it covers everybody.
Right.
It's like Kobe's not covered under the 2% step because he's been here over 5 years. Those guys who have been here less than 5 years are covered in the step raise.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something we can't take off the table.
Right.
Unless we go and amend,
Go in a minute.
rescind that at the moment.
Right.
I think it looks good.
Any other questions?
Are we gonna do this budget just like we done the rest, hold the raises until the end, or?
We can't do that.
Well, some of you can, right?
Some of you can. This, for example, if we decide, hey, no, not the 3%, we won't give you 5%, we could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Libby. Can we do that?
Could you make it without the extra 4 employees?
If we have to.
I mean, how much more?
If we take those 4 employees and make money.
That's the only thing. You see those transfers, what's your reimbursement on transfers
Well,
from nursing homes?
Well, what I did is I based those numbers that I gave you now off the minimum Medicare rate, which is $338 right now. You and I both know that a lot of times it's a lot more than that.
Right.
But the numbers I gave you is the minimum numbers. You know, we could see as much as $1 million, you know, coming in off of that. But, I mean, I'm not gonna say.
That's guaranteed money too.
Yes.
But that's
Oh, yeah,
transport.
because what I'm telling you, these 50 calls a day, these are calls I'm telling you, we get called for. I don't have a truck to go get them, we have to reschedule them for another day or some other time. It may be a hospital call, you know, I got a transfer, we don't have nobody to go get it. It sits over for 24, 48 hours before we can get to it. This allows us to get those calls in a timely fashion and get them somewhere else.
Good job, Deborah.
So this, the actual increase is 65,426.
No. The actual increase I did, I think, I threw
Employees are about
33,000.
210, the new employees are about 210.
Yeah,
about
you're looking,
2,000 was your
with the
first
benefits and
one.
everything, you're looking around 233,000.
Yeah, 210 to 30.
With those four new employees, how much revenue can you generate?
Projected.
We projected with those four employees would be $202,800. So we're projected. If you add that back to the ESO, what we would take with it, that gives us the $802,000.
Ought to be able to do something that you're running tight and good, you know, all these people moving in.
Oh, yeah.
Staff.
Well, our call volume's not going down, it's definitely going up. And that's something we're gonna see in the future. Because, you know, guys, the thing about it is, we're becoming a retirement community.
What is this
Yeah.
average age now, Mitch?
65.
In Monroe County, 65?
Is that
I
right?
said buy some of my property.
Is that on market?
I recommend we accept it as printed.
All I know is they charge me $1,200 to ride to my house in Parkway.
And he paid
Should
every
have saw
cent.
your bankroll double.
But you know what he did? He complained about not hiring air shots.
Air shots on that thing?
He wants air ride. I said, that's cost extra.
Be glad you've been in one. Dude, crap, some people don't even make it to that.
You
Die before they get it.
Calculate the working hours.
I recommend we accept it as printed.
Is that a motion?
I can't motion,
Yeah,
can't motion. Can't motion.
Huh?
Consensus.
That's my consensus.
Make a motion, John.
The agreement.
That's great.
What's the deal?
Is that?
We good?
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, Randy.
Get AMR out of the.
You got next week? That's great, man.
You got a radio, you have a radio now? I have one of them right here.
I think we need a meeting just for the radio.
Have your workshop.
That's your call. We won't be here next week. We got a cage match next week.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll be over at We'll be.
Oh, we stuck on that property line.
I've got it on it. Your rest. Rest.
That's why I did shit.